Aaliyah sat alone in her small apartment on her 24th birthday, the quiet almost loud enough to hurt. The room felt too still, too empty, as if it understood exactly how forgotten she was. Her phone lay on the table, screen dark, no calls, no messages, nothing. Every few minutes she picked it up, hoping maybe this time there would be something from her parents. But of course there wasn't. Vanessa and Charles Rivers hadn't called. They hadn't texted. They hadn't even sent a lazy, happy birthday message. They had done what they always did, acted like she didn't exist. Aaliyah sighed and opened the small white box in front of her. Inside was a single cupcake she bought on her way home from work. She placed a tiny candle in the middle and lit it. The warm flame flickered, glowing softly in the dim room. It was sad, but also strangely comforting. At least this moment belonged to her. As she stared at the candle, a memory flashed in her mind, her 8th birthday. She had waited all day in the living room wearing the little blue dress her great-aunt Eleanor had bought her. But her parents never came home early. They didn't bring a cake. They didn't even remember it was her birthday. She had cried quietly so they wouldn't hear. Another memory came. Her 15th birthday. She had made her own cupcakes then too. Vanessa had walked past her, looked at the candles and said, "Can you clean the kitchen when you're done? I have guests coming." No happy birthday. No hug, nothing. The memories stung now just as much as they did back then. Aaliyah blinked the thoughts away and looked at the sealed envelope lying next to the cupcake box. Her great-aunt Eleanor had given it to her before she passed away. She hadn't opened it yet. It felt too heavy, not because of the paper, but because Eleanor had been the only person who ever truly cared about her. "They didn't even ask how I was after the funeral," Aaliyah whispered to herself. Her parents hadn't checked on her once. Not when she cried. Not when she needed them. Not ever. She let out a long breath, about to blow out the candle, when suddenly, knock, knock. Aaliyah froze. That knock was too sharp, too eager. She stood up slowly, confused. No one ever visited her without warning. She wasn't used to surprise guests. Carefully, she walked to the door and opened it. There they were. Her parents stood in the hallway with the brightest, widest, fakest smiles she had ever seen on their faces. Vanessa held a gift bag like she had just stepped out of a commercial. Charles looked unusually cheerful, almost excited. "Surprise," Vanessa said in a sweet voice that didn't sound like her at all. Aaliyah stared at them, her hand still on the doorknob, her heart suddenly beating fast. For the first time that night, her phone buzzed on the table behind her. And she realized something was wrong. Aaliyah grew up being the invisible child. Even when she was in the same room as her parents, she felt unseen. It was as if she lived behind a glass wall, always watching her family but never truly part of them. Her mother, Vanessa, cared only about how things looked from the outside. She was obsessed with image, perfect clothes, perfect friends, perfect reputation. To her, Aaliyah was not a daughter to love. She was something that could either make her look good or embarrass her. And since Aaliyah was quiet, simple, and didn't fit Vanessa's ideal, she was ignored. Her father, Charles, was cold and distant. Control mattered more to him than kindness. He believed children should obey without question. And he treated Aaliyah like a small employee in his house. If she spoke too softly, he said she was weak. If she spoke too loudly, he said she was disrespectful. Nothing she did ever felt right. So Aaliyah learned to raise herself emotionally. She learned not to expect hugs, comfort, or praise. She learned to celebrate her own small achievements. She learned to hide her sadness, because no one asked why she was crying anyway. Little by little, she built a quiet world inside her, where she kept all her hopes, fears, and dreams to herself. The only person who ever stepped into that world was her great-aunt Eleanor. Eleanor was soft-spoken but strong, gentle but honest. She always noticed when Aaliyah was sad, even when Aaliyah tried to hide it. She was the one who showed up at school events when no one else did. She was the one who encouraged Aaliyah's art, telling her, "Your hands see what the heart feels." She listened, truly listened, in a way no one else in Aaliyah's life ever had. Eleanor became her safe place, her refuge, her real family. After Eleanor passed away, Aaliyah felt like she had lost the only person who loved her without conditions. Life became heavier, and she had to stand on her own in ways many people never have to. Now at 24, Aaliyah worked 2 jobs just to keep up with rent, bills, and school. In the morning, she worked at a cafe where she smiled politely at customers even when she was exhausted inside. In the evenings, she worked part-time at an art supply store. And in between, she attended night classes, trying to build a future far away from the emotional mess she grew up with. Money was always tight. She skipped outings with friends because she couldn't afford them, and sometimes she stretched a single meal over 2 days. But still, she valued her independence more than anything. Every dollar she earned reminded her she didn't need her parents. Every step she took alone reminded her she was stronger than her childhood made her feel. But strength did not erase the wounds. Aaliyah wanted love, real love. She wanted someone to choose her, to care for her the way Eleanor did. But she also feared getting hurt again. She feared being used, controlled, or manipulated like before. Her heart carried both longing and caution, side by side. So when her parents suddenly showed up on her birthday, smiling too brightly, acting too sweet, something inside her tightened. It didn't feel real. It didn't feel safe. It felt like a trap wrapped in pretty paper. She couldn't understand why they were acting like this. They had spent years ignoring her feelings, her dreams, her pain. Now suddenly they cared? Her instincts whispered that something was wrong. Her parents were never affectionate without a reason. And the reason was never good. As she stood facing them in her doorway, Aaliyah felt a familiar ache in her chest. The same ache she felt as a child when her parents would only talk to her when they needed something. That ache mixed with the new strength she had built over the years. The strength to protect herself. They wanted something. She didn't know what yet. But she knew one thing clearly. Their sudden kindness was not love. It was a warning. Her parents acted overly sweet the moment they stepped into her apartment. It felt strange, almost uncomfortable, like watching bad actors pretend to be warm and loving. Vanessa walked around the small living room, touching things gently and smiling too much. Charles nodded at everything she said, his eyes scanning the place as if he were inspecting it. "So this is where you live?" Vanessa asked, her tone soft and sugary. "It's cute," she added, even though she clearly looked unimpressed. Charles asked, "How are your jobs going? You still working at that cafe?" He sounded polite, almost kind, but not in a real way. More like he was reading lines from a script. Aaliyah felt her stomach twist. They had never, not once, asked about her jobs or her apartment before today. "They're fine," she said quietly. "I manage." Vanessa nodded quickly. Good. And school? You're still studying, right? That must be hard. We worry about you, you know." Aaliyah almost laughed. Worry? They had never worried about her. Not when she was sick. Not when she cried. Not even after Eleanor died. But she kept her face calm. They continued asking question after question. Her daily routine, her friends, her plans. It was too much. Their sudden interest felt like heavy perfume in a small room. Thick, fake, and suffocating. Aaliyah finally sat down and held the sealed envelope Eleanor had left her. She hadn't planned to tell them anything. But their questions kept circling around her life, her money, her future. She swallowed and said softly, almost without thinking, "Eleanor left me something in her will." Everything in the room froze. Vanessa stopped smiling. Charles stopped nodding. Their eyes sharpened, quick and hungry, before they tried to hide it with slow smiles. "Oh," Vanessa said too casually. "That's lovely. What did she leave you, dear?" Aaliyah noticed Charles leaning forward slightly, pretending he was just curious. "Yes," he added. "Your aunt was generous." "What did she give you?" Aaliyah felt her heartbeat quicken. She didn't like the sudden shift in their expressions. She hadn't meant to open the door to this conversation, but now it was open, and they stood right in the middle of it. She tried to avoid giving details, but they gently pushed again and again. "Just tell us, sweetheart," Vanessa said sweetly. "Family should know these things." "Yes," Charles added. "We only want to help." Aaliyah realized she couldn't escape the question. Their eyes were glued to her. Their smiles were stretched thin. Finally, she took a breath and said quietly, "She left me $1.6 million. Silence. The room went still. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to fade. Both of them stared at her, completely stunned. For a moment, they forgot to act. Their faces dropped, revealing pure shock. And then, just as quickly, they forced their smiles back into place. "That's wonderful," Vanessa said, her voice suddenly high. "So wonderful," she repeated, almost choking on the words. Charles smiled stiffly. Well, this changes things for you. A lot. Aaliyah felt her skin prickle. Something was terribly wrong. Vanessa sat beside her, too close. Maybe this is a good time for us to reconnect as a family. We've all been distant. We could fix that now. Charles nodded. Yes. And I can help guide you financially. A sum like that can be overwhelming. You'll need someone experienced. There it was, the truth showing through the cracks. They weren't here for her birthday. They weren't here because they cared. They were here because of the money. Aaliyah felt old wounds open inside her. All the times they ignored her. All the times they made her feel small. All the times she needed them and they didn't come. Now they wanted to come into her life because she was suddenly valuable. She sat still, her heart heavy, her mind alert. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing clearly. She needed to be careful. Parents flood her with calls, messages, and constant advice the very next day. It starts early in the morning. Aaliyah wakes up to 10 missed calls from Vanessa and 4 from Charles. Her phone is filled with long text messages, all sounding warm and loving, but the tone feels forced. Vanessa writes paragraphs about family sticking together, saying things like, "We should support each other. You're not alone, sweetheart. Let us be there for you now." She adds heart emojis, something she has never done before. Charles sends shorter messages but with more pressure. You need proper financial guidance. Someone could take advantage of you. Let me help manage the money until you learn what to do. Aaliyah feels overwhelmed. They had never shown this much interest in her life, not even during important moments. Even when she graduated high school, they barely congratulated her. When she won an art competition, they didn't show up. But suddenly, they were acting like loving, protective parents. She tries to ignore the messages, but they don't stop. They call during her work shifts, during her classes, even late at night. It feels like they are trying to suffocate her with attention. And the more they push, the more anxious she feels. One evening, as she sits on her small couch trying to rest, her phone buzzes again. Another message from Vanessa. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't be alone right now. Money can be stressful. Let us guide you. We're your family." Aaliyah closes her eyes and leans her head back. She feels a sting in her chest. The word family feels heavy, almost painful, because she knows what her childhood was really like. Slowly, memories she tried to bury start to rise. She remembers being left home alone during a storm when she was 6. The wind had howled against the windows, and she had cried quietly under her blanket. Her parents didn't come home until late, and when they did, they didn't even ask if she was okay. She remembers Vanessa looking at her drawings when she was 10. Instead of praising her, she had laughed lightly and said, "Art is a hobby for rich kids. You should think about something realistic." That was the day Aaliyah stopped showing her mother anything she created. And she remembers Charles standing over her during her teenage years, his voice cold. "You'll never be successful if you keep wasting time on silly dreams. Be practical." His words cut deep, and she carried them like invisible scars. Now these same people were pretending to care about her future? Later that night, Aaliyah calls her friend Maya, the one person who knows her history. She tells Maya everything, the calls, the messages, the sudden affection. Maya listens quietly and then says firmly, "Aaliyah, they never cared until money showed up. This isn't love. This is opportunity. And you're the opportunity." Aaliyah knows Maya is right, but hearing it out loud hurts. It's like someone pointing to a wound she was pretending didn't exist. But things only get worse over the next few days. Her parents begin guilt-tripping her. Vanessa sends a message saying, "We sacrificed so much to raise you. We supported you even when it was hard. Now it's your turn to support us." Aaliyah stares at the text in disbelief. Supported me? When? How? They had forgotten birthdays. They had ignored her feelings. They had treated her like she was a burden. Charles sends a voice message insisting she should trust him because fathers know best. His tone sounds caring on the surface, but underneath, she feels the pressure, the demand for control. Then one day, Vanessa calls her and, without thinking, slips up. She says sharply, "You owe us. After everything we've done, the least you can do is let us help." Aaliyah freezes. There it is, the truth. Not love. Not concern. Not family. Expectation. Entitlement. Ownership. "You owe us. Those words echo in her mind long after the call ends. She sits on her bed, holding her phone, her hands trembling slightly. She feels a painful emotional shift inside her, like a door she kept closed for years has been forced open. She finally sees the situation clearly. Her parents aren't trying to reconnect. They are trying to claim her, trying to take what wasn't theirs, trying to use her kindness and childhood wounds to control her again. Aaliyah wipes her eyes slowly, not from sadness, but from clarity. This is not love. It's desperation. Their desperation, not her responsibility. And for the first time in her life, she feels something new rising inside her. The strength to say no. Parents show up at her apartment unannounced one evening, banging on the door like it belongs to them. Aaliyah jumps at the noise, her heart racing. She wasn't expecting anyone. She wasn't in the mood for visitors. And she definitely wasn't ready for them. When she opens the door, Vanessa pushes her way in immediately, followed by Charles. There is no smile this time. No fake sweetness. Their faces look tight, angry, impatient. "We need to talk," Charles says, shutting the door behind him. Aaliyah stands still, already feeling the tension thick in the air. "Why are you here?" Vanessa crosses her arms. "Because this distance between us needs to stop. You need guidance. You need structure. And you need your family." Aaliyah frowns slightly. "I'm fine on my own." Charles steps closer, towering over her like he used to when she was a child. "No, you're not. You're coming back home. Where you belong." Aaliyah feels her throat tighten. "I don't belong there. I built my own life." "You're being ridiculous," Vanessa snaps. "You can't handle all this money. You're too young. Too inexperienced. You need us." Aaliyah shakes her head. "I said no. I'm not moving in with you." The moment the words leave her mouth, something snaps inside Charles. His face twists with anger. "Ungrateful," he spits. "After everything we've done for you. After all the sacrifices." Aaliyah wants to laugh, but her chest hurts too much. "Sacrifices? What sacrifices?" She tries to stay calm. "You didn't come here because you care about me. You came because of the inheritance." Charles's eyes flash with rage. Vanessa tries to calm herself, but the fake sweetness is gone now. Her voice rises, sharp and cruel. "You think Eleanor loved you more than us?" Vanessa says. "Please. She only spoiled you because she felt sorry for you. You were always the weakest one in the family." Aaliyah freezes. The words hit her harder than she expected. The weakest one. All the memories she tried to bury crack open inside her. Being ignored, mocked, belittled, forgotten. She feels all of it at once. Her chest burns, her eyes sting. And she can't hold the pain anymore. Years of hurt rush out of her all at once. Her knees feel weak. Her breath shakes. Tears spill out before she can stop them. She breaks down in front of them, the way she never allowed herself to as a child. Vanessa rolls her eyes. Charles sighs heavily, annoyed. They don't reach for her. They don't comfort her. They just watch her cry like she is being dramatic. "We're your parents," Charles says sharply. "Start acting like a daughter." Aaliyah looks up through tears, and in that moment, something inside her changes. She finally sees them clearly, not as parents, but as people who never loved her the way she deserved. She stands up straighter, wiping her face. "Please leave," she says softly. They argue. They threaten. They guilt trip. But this time, she doesn't bend. She doesn't apologize. She just repeats the same words until they finally walk out, slamming the door behind them. The apartment falls silent. Aaliyah sinks onto the couch, shaking. She feels empty, drained, but also strangely relieved. The truth is ugly, but it's finally out. Hours later, her phone buzzes. It's her lawyer letting her know something important has arrived. Aaliyah wipes her face and listens as he sends her an audio recording. "My dear Aaliyah." Eleanor's gentle voice fills the room. Aaliyah covers her mouth. Tears rise again, but this time they feel different. Eleanor continues. "I am sorry I didn't protect you more. I saw the way they treated you. I should have stepped in sooner. I hope you can forgive me." Her voice softens with love. "You were never weak, sweetheart. You were surviving them. You grew strength in places no one saw. I loved you because of who you are, not because I felt sorry for you." Aaliyah closes her eyes, letting the words wash over her. "You deserve peace. You deserve joy. And you deserve a life without fear. The message ends, leaving the room filled with quiet warmth. Aaliyah holds the phone close to her chest. For the first time in her life, she hears exactly what she needed. She was never weak. She was never unwanted. She was never invisible. She was loved. Deeply. Truly. And now she finally believes it. Aaliyah blocks her parents after they try to contact her again, sending messages and calls filled with guilt and pressure. She feels a heavy weight lift from her shoulders as she hits block. For the first time in years, she can breathe without fear of manipulation. She decides it's time to take care of herself. She starts seeing a therapist to work through the years of pain and neglect. Talking about her childhood, her fears, and her loneliness helps her slowly untangle the knots she has carried for so long. Every session gives her a little more strength, a little more clarity. With her inheritance, she begins to build a life she has always dreamed of. She moves into a bright, cozy apartment that feels like her own safe space for the first time. She invests in her art classes, learning new skills and exploring her creativity without judgment. She opens a savings account and starts planning for the future, making sure she can support herself fully. Each step she takes reminds her that she doesn't need anyone else's approval or control to live a good life. Aaliyah also writes a final letter to her parents. It is not filled with anger or accusations. Instead, it is calm, firm, and honest. She tells them she is choosing her own peace, and that she will no longer allow herself to be trapped in cycles of abuse. She explains that she forgives them, not for their sake, but for hers. It is a letter that closes the door without bitterness, giving her the freedom she has wanted for so long. When her parents respond with anger and insults, she reads their words once and sets them aside. She doesn't reply. She doesn't argue. She doesn't give them the chance to pull her back into their world. Every time she resists the temptation to react, she feels stronger and more in control of her own life. Slowly, Aaliyah begins rebuilding her identity from scratch. She rediscovers who she is beyond the labels of ignored or weak. She learns that she is capable, deserving, and resilient. Her days are no longer dictated by the fear of rejection or the need for validation from people who never truly cared. For the first time in a long time, Aaliyah feels free. She feels proud of herself. She feels alive. Each morning, she wakes up knowing she belongs to herself, and that her life is hers to shape. She is no longer just surviving. She is thriving, choosing her own happiness, and finally living the life she deserves. 1 year later, Aaliyah hosts a small birthday dinner with her closest friends. The apartment is warm and filled with laughter. There are candles on a homemade cake, soft music playing in the background, and the gentle chatter of people who truly care about her. As she picks up the knife to cut the cake, she smiles quietly to herself. She leans close and whispers, "Thank you, Eleanor." Her great aunt's love still feels with her, guiding her, comforting her, reminding her of her worth. She looks around the table at the people who chose to be in her life, not because of money, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Her friends cheer as she cuts the first slice, and she feels a warmth in her chest she has never felt with her parents. This is real. This is love. This is family. Aaliyah takes a quiet moment to reflect. She thinks about all the pain she endured, all the times she felt invisible, and all the ways her parents failed her. But she also thinks about how far she has come. She survived. She grew stronger. She built a life on her own terms. Sometimes, she says softly to herself, family is the people who choose you, not the ones who claim you. The words bring a peaceful smile to her face. She no longer needs anyone else to validate her. She no longer seeks approval from those who never gave it. She is free. She is seen. She is enough. Aaliyah takes a deep breath, looking around at the happy faces of her friends. For the first time in her life, she feels completely at peace. She laughs freely, joins the conversations, and lets herself enjoy the moment. As the candles flicker and the evening goes on, Aaliyah smiles again, quietly but fully. She has healed. She has reclaimed her life. She has found her people. And for the first time, she knows she belongs, truly, fully, and without apology. Hey friends, thanks for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.